So hello guys, what's up? This is Scher talking. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we'll be discussing the newest update that will bring us two events. One is a returning one, another one is a new event where we can get Hannibal and get a little more status, only 1 point more. And now we have a new banner. This banner here is a summer banner with Silver, Claudia, and Final Empress. It's called the Romancing Festival Final Empress, but I may say that Silver is the most interesting character of the bunch. Without further ado, let's go and check them all on our SaGa, but we also will have to check the status on Reddit because they were buffed for global. Let's go. Starting with Final Empress, she has 4 different SS styles, only this one is not limited. This one is the Platinum style of Final Empress. She is good for inheritance, but this one was the recent version that everyone wanted to have because it has heals and also has guard up. A very good style to have, and she's also important in the building of this new version. So, then she gets a later version that is called New Year's, and this one is probably the definitive version of her, but in some cases, the summer style is the best damage dealer. As you can see, she has 1 arrow for STR, 2 arrows for agility. Interesting because we can get the max potential just by using the Platinum for STR as well. Yeah, it's the same as the New Year's one. And let's check the status on Reddit because they buffed this status. So now we are on Reddit, and let me thank Hans43 because he did the translation and posted it all. Thanks so much. Final Empress now has some different status, but they buffed her not so much. Silver received a better buff. She has 95 SCR, that's pretty huge. Well, for now it is, and 11 plus. Then she decreased her endurance by 3%, I don't know why. Got a little more dexterity, I think just to guarantee that she would not be failing with the newest content. And she got a buff to agility, she now has 80s, and also 17 as a plus. That's pretty good, a very good value for those that want to use her in evasion strategies. She doesn't have high intelligence, has a very bad will, not worse than some other characters, but very bad on 51. Below average. Endurance is on 60, so you can see that she's not here to receive damage. But she does have something that increases her resistance by one of her skills. Okay, and her charm is 60. It's good because she needs to be healed. She can self-heal, so higher charisma will increase her healing potentials. Now the different things is just that on the ability number 2, she now has a passive that increases her BP on the start of a fight by 2 points. That's extremely important and changes how she works when compared to her Japanese counterpart. And the second skill also has the same buff that a Ward version got in Global. We'll be discussing this all just now, going back to Nauroma SaGa. Let me click here. The first skill that she has is Watermelon Cut. This one here is impressive because it costs only 3. That's okay. The power is not so high, it's very close to a normal attack. A little higher because we can upgrade this to rank 99, and she heals herself when she attacks with only 3 BP, meaning that this is always available. She can always heal herself, and the healing is not that bad. 15 is just like Cotton's second skill. Let's just compare what she can heal right now on Japan. Remember that her charisma is lower on Japan. So she is healing for 653, so I think that right now in Global she will be healing for 550 or something among that. That's a pretty good value since the cap is around 1.2 thousand. With 2 attacks she gets very close to max HP again, and she is, well, sometimes useful in boss fights. I'm gonna say that she's the perfect character to be used, but for those that have her award version, they can bring a heal spell as well, so she can heal herself with this attack and heal allies with the spell. Right now in Japan she can heal, let's see here, with Moonlight, and Moonlight was buffed for Global. It also gives morale up, so she can heal for around, I believe she'll be healing for 900 and something in Global, and that is with this word maxed. She needs light version of any sword that you can have. That's good because, well, when she does not need to heal herself, she will be using 1 LP. When she heals herself, she's saving LP. We can only heal 5 times in this game, especially if a character do not die. She has something to increase her survivability. It's not like Jorg. Jorg is a better healer for sustain because he just increases the resistance of the whole squad. In her case, Moonflash gives her 15 buff for guard up. That means 15 less damage from all types of attacks. And this comes from Moonflash. This is a very good attack because it has 2 properties, Slash and Stun. That's pretty good already. The power is pretty high, on 28, so it's very similar to the best attacks that uses 6 BP, well, save for some very specific other characters. And increasing her sustain means that if you want to use her in boss fights, you probably start the fight using Moonflash, and then you just switch between using heal spell or just normal attack to save BP. That's good enough. So Moonflash is also available in her award style, so it's something that you don't need to inherit. If you are going for her award style, you are probably inheriting skill 1 or 3. We'll be talking about skill 3 later. And the third skill, Elegant Peach, is an attack that uses 12 BP when you fully awaken. Remember, she got a buff, so she starts with 12. This skill can be used on turn 1. It's the same modifier as Moonflash, so the damage is pretty good as well. And it's both Slash and Stun again, indirect, so you want to use this as an opener in strategies where you want to farm. It's hardly useful in boss fights, but I think that if there are multiple targets, it's still okay. The good thing here is, just like I said, she uses this on turn 1, so she gets 6 more BP for turn 3, so she can also use Moonflash in the last wave. That is if you really need. Sadly, this version cannot follow up with an AoE attack. That's a problem with many characters that we were receiving recently, like even Joe, but Joe gets fixed. Mac has the same problem, and even Genryu. Genryu doesn't have fast attack, but yeah, he starts with a very powerful AoE, but then he does not have any way to follow up. That is if an enemy is still alive on the third wave, and you will need some more damage. So that's something that you need to understand about this character. If you have 3 characters and each one of them finish a wave by themselves, that's pretty good enough. But it's more for veterans that already have many styles to choose from. But just to say, Elegant Peach is pretty okay as it is. But it's not a fast attack. Remember, this is not a fast attack. We'll be talking about her fast attack pretty soon. So, the first passive is Imperial Guard. This is the same passive that we have with Final Emperor, Termite version. They stack together, but the problem is just that it lasts for only 1 turn. That's why I was saying that Jorg is a better healer if you just want heal or some sustain, because his passive is for the whole fight as long as everyone is alive. In her case, after turn 1, you will not have anything active anymore. It may help with turn 1 nukes from bosses, but after that, well, it's a waste. But then we have Brave Assault 3. This is more Hardy Wallop 3 in global. The good thing is that to compensate the first passive not being perfect for boss fights, she got 2 more BP here as a bonus. It's Hardy Wallop with another passive, the one that's Power Charge 2. You get this for free. That's impressive already. And Fired Up 5 increases her damage output by 20%. So what you have is 35% increase in damage at all times, and on full HP, sorry. And 2 more BP on the start of fight. The problem is, just like I said, she loses HP even though she can heal herself, and then it means that she also does not have a real nuke with just this style. You have to think about inheritance. It is hard to choose because she has many different good interesting setups. Now, I want to say something about her interesting inheritance options. Let's just decrease the size of this window so we can see. Like I was saying, this version of her award has a heal spell called Moonlight that was buffed for global, 15% increasing morale, the damage, and this one is 4 BP, not so costly. Well, sometimes she may not have it, but it's good enough for 1 more BP. Moonlight is also stronger than Heal Light, a little stronger, and it allows her to become a healer. She has that attack that increases her guard up, so it means that she will be receiving less damage, making her survive to heal. Yes, your healer has to have sustain, especially if you are just using her as a healer. But then we want to use her most of the time as a damage dealer. We can inherit Lunar Blade Plus, but it's only possible if you have a ward Final Empress. If you summoned her, she just got a rerunning banner, I think like almost 2 months ago. If you have this version, it increases her potential by a lot. Why? Lunar Blade Plus is not as strong as her attack here called Elegant Beach, but it has a different combination. It is both slash and moon. As you can see, it has 22 modifier, that's not so high. Yes, it's very close to what we have with Barthélemy. Barthélemy has lower modifier, but he has better passives altogether, but not so much status, so we can compare them to have similar results. If your Barthélemy can clear a wave, sometimes he cannot, you will see the same thing as this version of Final Empress using Lunar Blade Plus. I think she deals a little more than Barthélemy, but then can be used together. In Final Island, it will be pretty nice. It's also interesting to see the final damage output of Lunar Blade Plus with all different styles available. We just talked about Noel in the past review. This Noel here can do more damage with Lunar Blade Plus, but he cannot follow up with AoE. He will be able to do that in the future by inheriting one skill from the free version of Noel. This is the free version of Noel that will be added into the game, and it's pretty good by itself. But for Lunar Blade, the limited version of Noel is better. Final Empress is here, she's on the top of all her versions, but it's quite noticeable how stronger she is when compared to the Platinum style or even the Award style. As you can see, the damage increases a lot, especially when we hit for weaknesses, it will increase even more. So we can use both together. Noel if you summon for him, and Final Empress if you're using Final Island, or if you are farming, if they can kill a wave, it's good enough. You don't really need both, let me tell you that, because they share the same slot and Rainbow Rangers, but you can use them in Dragon Strike and maybe some other future formations that increases STR. Okay, so now let's return here. If you want to use a follow-up attack, you will have to wait till New Year's version, because she has this attack called Windsword, that is a D power 14 modifier, 6 BP. So she uses 12 on start, and she can use this Windsword on turn 3. That is good enough to finish some waves. That's similar to what we will be able to perform with some other fast attackers like Joe, but Joe can follow up 2 times. She uses only 3 BP, she will use 6. But just to explain how she evolves in the future with more attacks. This version of her also has an attack that's kinda double crush with Sun added as an effect. So it's also interesting for some stages where we need Sun. We don't need many Sun physical damage dealers as we wanted, we have more mages, so it's interesting to have a character that can do both Slash and Sun on an STR position. And if you want her to be better on single target damage, you have to think about Inheritance. V-Impact comes from her Platinum style, and V-Impact will be upgradable in the future, coming for triple S damage. It doesn't increase too much, but it decreases 1 BP, allowing her to use this twice in a 3-turn cycle. Why? Because she was buffed in Global. The Japanese version cannot do this because it's only 16 BP on the end of the 3-turn cycle. She has 18 because of her power charge added, and now we can use this 3 times in the future. But we will have to wait for this. It's probably 2 or 3 months away from this. You can also just inherit Half Moon. It's a sheep attack that's kinda good for what it costs, but you will probably just stick to Lunar Blade Plus or Moonlight, depending on the situations that you wanna use her. Yeah, like I said, she's not exactly a tank. Jorn is better for healing, but she can bring both heal and damage when you want her to perform. She performs way better than George for farming, and it's interesting to have a character that will just get a new style to help her become better. And another thing that we can do is, now that because she starts with 12 BP, we can use Moon Flash 3 times in a row. That is helpful in battles where you have only 1 or 2 enemies in the field, allowing you to just finish them with 2 characters. Just bring someone else that has a similar cycling, and maybe both can kill the enemies together. It will depend on the scenarios. Also, after she uses Elegant Beach, she will have enough BP to just keep stacking Watermelon Cut. That allows her to just heal herself many times. And with 2 Watermelon Cut, she has enough HP to heal herself from almost 0 to top. That's pretty nice. We have a character that has a similar thing, it's Teacher Cordelia, and Teacher Cordelia is also pretty strong on boss fights. Her future style is more for boss fights as well, because she shares a very similar passive that increases her STR on every new turn. As you can see here, she gets a minimal heal and a buff to her own STR. That's pretty amazing. But she may change, and we are pretty far from this, just to kind of explain what you can expect from another version of Final Empress. In my opinion, she's the second best style in this banner. If you want another fast attacker, but you do need to have this version of her, it's pretty good to invest here, at least to get at least her or Silver. Now let's discuss Silver. Okay, so this is Silver, and Silver is not easy to explain, it will take some time. We have 3 different versions of her. We have the Platinum one, everyone should have it by now. This is a limited one that we got with award banners, I think around November past year. Never had a rerun so far, and in Japan it was also a problem to have a rerun of this character. And now the summer style of her, and that one got a very nice boost. There's only one problem here, is that she needed this limited style to get more STR. As you can see, the summer version does not have arrows for STR. And you have a 5 points difference between the base status. And because of the modifiers, we can see that it is around 10 less STR points by not having this version. We also could use one of her skills, but more into that later. So we need to discuss this status that was changed for Silver. They were pretty massive. They increased her STR for 95. That's the same thing as Final Empress, with the difference that she has a larger bonus. It's 15 against 11. She also got a very noticeable buff to her endurance. Now she can survive a little better. Not just that, but also a buff to will. So both resistance, physical and magical, were improved. She got also a buff to dexterity. She got a debuff to her intelligence. Well, she does not need that, so it was an okay trade. And she lost some charm. She does not need charm. And all the other status are the same, but let's take a look on her agility. It's pretty massive, 92% and 13 plus. She can be very good for evasion strategies, since her native bonuses is pretty high already with her base. Very good character for evasion strategies with Matriarch or Noel's Daughter. But then we have to discuss her skills and passives. 2 things changing. Her skill number 3 now has a fast property, and her ability tree is now overtension instead of just fired up 4. Now that we know this, we can return to now. For skills, the first one is Breath. This skill here is amazing because it is free. Yeah, you don't use BP when you fully awaken this, and it gives 2 buffs. 20 up to 25% increase to both cold and lightning damage. And because of how these buffs work, it will give between 40 or 50% increase to skill number 3. Yes, this means skill number 3 is already fast, but if you want to play on manual and you want to use Breath before casting Thunder's No Roar, it increases the damage output, but this all comes with a cost. We'll discuss this later. But Breath is good because it increases the damage from her skill number 2, and Inheritance. She's all about cold or lightning damage aligned with Slash, save for her skill number 3. So Breath is good. What about the second skill? Not so good in my opinion, but it works when it's needed. It's a roll attack that can be casted from far, so it doesn't get countered, indirect, Slash and Cold. So it's very similar to Aqua Viper in that regard, but it's a little stronger. Yes, but, well, if you have some stages where we need Aqua Viper, we can use this because it's STR and Aqua Viper is intelligence. But I don't like this too much. There are not many stages where we need roll attacks. So, skill number 3, Thunder's No Roar, now has a fast property, so it can be used on turn 1. Why? Because it gets to 10 BP when you fully awaken. But it comes with a price, 2 LP. This is similar to Jorg. Jorg also loses 2 LP. In Jorg's case, it's worse because he's a healer. Her case is not that bad because she's not a healer, and when you are using this, you are farming. I doubt you'll be using this on boss fights. So this is another case where the third skill is just so strong, but the character cannot follow up with an AoE attack. So another character that should be used alongside other fast attackers or characters that you know that will be attacking and finishing waves by themselves. If she kills first wave, she probably did her job. You are using another character for turn 2 in second wave, and another character for turn 3 in another wave. And let me tell you something, Thunder's No Roar is the best and strongest skill for turn 1 and fast in the game. Yeah, we have some cards that can do more damage than this, but they are not fast. So this becomes very powerful because of her passives here. We have 35 increasing damage, and we don't have any hard wallop here in the way. So even if she does not use it on turn 1, you want it to use it on turn 2 and she gets attacked, you don't lose damage. Very nice. And also she has, like I said, a very fast agility. If you want her to attack on second wave, she will go before other fast attackers, most likely, since her agility is amazing. So this attack is very comparable also to what we do with Mac. Mac also goes for a full AoE fast attack on turn 1, and then after that he only has single target attacks. That will be the case with her, but she does not even have a good single target attack with this build. We have to change and get something from Inheritance. But it's good to know that Thunder Snow Roar is now the best AoE fast attack for turn 1 damage. Not much more than Mac, but noticeable, and it has 2 different elements. It's both Cold and Lightning, although Cold and Lightning are a little redundant. Why? Because most enemies that are weak to Cold are also weak to Lightning. Yeah, fishes and aquatic enemies are most of the time weak to both, so it doesn't increase too much. It's hard to find enemies that are both weak to Slash and Pierce, like with Mac's case, but they both attack different things. Pierce also matches with her, because some aquatic enemies are weak to Pierce, Cold, and Lightning. While the Slash part of Mac will not combine too much with her. We don't have many enemies that are weak to both Slash and Cold or Slash and Lightning. But for aquatic enemies, they are weak to Pierce, they both work well together. You just have to find out which one you wanted to attack first or second. Not only that, she also works well with Genryu and Joe. Why? Because Joe deals both fire and cold damage, and that's the same as Genryu. They also buff cold damage, so Thunder Snow Roar will get increased damage because of that. Well, if you have Joe, Genryu, and Silver together, and the enemies are weak to cold, you can probably clear the 3 waves with just 1 attack of 10. Well, it depends on the event, depends on the stage, but it's a pretty powerful combination coming from 3 characters that work together. She comes from STR, Genryu comes from Agility, and Joe comes from Intelligence. You can use the Rainbow Rangers and take the max from all of them together. So, Thunder Snow Roar is very powerful, but we also need to discuss the other attack we use after that, or for boss fights, we need to use Inheritance. And now for her passives, the first one is a 25% chance to counter-attack with Glacial Blade. Yeah, this is the same attack we had with global exclusive Katarina in the second Platinum version of her as well. And its D damage, slashing code is on the start of the D damage, is not so high, and also only on rank 1. It's better than the normal attack that was in the Japanese version, but still not much. The second passive, Weak Point Focus 4, that increases her damage by 20% when she attacks a weak target. Because she can do Slash, Cold, and Lightning, I think it will be most of the time. And the last one is Overtension now. Instead of Fire the 4 Overtension, and it's 15% when you attack all times, then 30% when it's a combo, and 45% when it's an overdrive. That's amazing. So she can stack with Weak Point Focus 4 as well, for very high damage output. So after considering all of her damage passives, just need to look something. Remember, Breath will now be able to increase Thunder Snow Roar by 50% when you fully train this. She will do very high damage. You only need to use Breath once and then Thunder Snow Roar if you have a usage for this, because it's only on manual, because she would never use Breath in auto. But if you need in a specific challenge, turn 2 damage, Thunder Snow Roar will be pretty powerful. So now let's discuss her inheritance options, because they are pretty interesting and we kinda need to consider them, especially if you have the past version of her. Well, let me check here. As you can see, the limited version had Freezing Slasher, and the Platinum one has Lightning Slasher. They are both the same damage, but one is considering Slash and Lightning, and the other one is considering Slash and Cold. At least everyone will be able to use the Lightning Slasher that comes from her Platinum one. And this is what you may want to do in some farming scenarios. Although 2 Lightning Slasher may not be that amazing, when she hits 4 times it's a lot of damage. And like I said, she's the next best thing after Ferdinand, and after Gray. We will get versions of Gray that are more for long fights, but the current version of Gray is just for farming because he gets a very nice buff in turn 1. So, she also has Vandalize from the Platinum one, but it's 11 BP. It will not be able to use on turn 1. So I prefer to stick to Lightning Slasher. You can also bring the last version of Khalid, and he also buffs both Slash and Lightning. She gets stronger by inheriting Lightning Slasher if you use it with him. Vandalize is a skill that's way too costly right now. It's 11 VP, she cannot use this on turn 1, so maybe not that good. Also, she buffs elemental damage with Breath, so it's not exactly a good inheritance. The limited version of her also had Beer Crush, that's kinda old for today's standards, and Freezing Slash could be better in some situations where your boss is only weak to cold instead of lightning. But it's not that important. In my opinion, it's more important for increasing the ST hard than just because of Freezing Slasher. So for cycling, as you can see, we can start with Thunder Snow Roar and then just use Lightning Slasher on turn 3, or we can also just stick to Lightning Slasher twice, just increase Thunder Snow Roar to 11 or more, and she will use this twice. She has a very high agility, so it's very likely that she will attack on turn 1 on the first wave, unless you are using fast attackers. But if you are using fast attackers, you will prefer to use Thunder Snow Roar. And she can also inherit Lightning Slasher to attack on the last wave. The third wave, sometimes you may need an extra help. So, in my opinion, this version of Silver is just so powerful because of her skill number 3. Now, it's the Queen of turn 1 damage with fast attack. Yes, and she can also work with a single target damage. She can just use Lightning Slasher in 2 times in a 3-turn cycle. That is okay, she can also be used in boss fights because of Overintention, allowing her to nuke very strong when you are using Overdrive. Her damage don't depend on having full HP, so that is a plus. She will just do consistent damage when you can make her do. Yeah, Silver is the most interesting character in my opinion because we lack turn 1 damage and she can also be used for turn 2 since the damage is pretty high. And it's even a little better than Final Empress. Final Empress is pretty strong, but her fast attack has lower damage potential than Silver. And Silver has 2 different types of nukes, AoE and single target. Okay, so now it's time to talk about the last character, and that is Claudia, and sadly she's not as good as the other 2. Let's go. Okay, so we are now on Claudia's page, and she does have a lot of different styles. That's true. The problem is just that Award Claudia is still one of the best Pierce characters in the game. She got even a buff by receiving Heartseeker Plus by upgrade. And now this one has a lot of competition against herself. And well, let's talk about her. She has 2 arrows for agility, while we have 2 arrows for dexterity with Award Claudia and UDX Claudia. So far this one is not limited, this one was limited, this one is the one that has the highest intelligence as you can see, but it's not like she needs intelligence besides for instant kill. She also can use it for paralyze, but she's not the best paralyze inflictor anyway. And the other styles here are free. This one is free, this one is free, this one is free. So this one is the last one before the UDX, and the UDX is pretty strong in Japan even to this point. Okay, Claudia has many versatility because of all the different styles, but was she buffed for global? Not much. They changed a little of her status. They increased her endurance to 66, 10% more, that's good. Dexterity increased by 4%, not that impactful, but good enough. Will, 4% more. She has 87 agility, that's good enough in my opinion. Low intelligence, so she cannot be used as an instant killer besides Award Claudia. Award Claudia is still the queen. And her charm is a little beyond normal, but not high. Okay, so her passives and skills were not changed, so we can go back here and discuss her directly from now. Well, let's go and check all the skills from her. She has double elements with first and last skill, but she is a specialist in the game. She tried to focus herself in dealing increased damage with special killer attacks. The first one is the Splash Arrow, and it has a special effect against humans and fish. It's a good enough attack because it's very cheap. It uses only 2 BP when you fully awaken. The power is D, not so high. It's more like a filler attack when you don't have BP. Yeah, most of the time, yes. But the increased damage is important, and that's why I'll be talking about her passes before we finish the skills. She has the first one being Super Deadly Blow. This one increases the critical damage by 50%. I don't know if you know, but critical damage, when it doesn't have any passive to increase it, it's only 20%. Let's say that you attack an enemy that is not weak to the attack. Like, we are not attacking a human, we are attacking a bone enemy. You have a normal damage. If you are attacking a human, you will have a 20% increase on your final output. 20% may not seem too much. That's why many people don't care too much about critical attacks. But look here, she increases it by 50%, so 70% increase in critical damage. Yeah, she's a specialist, and that allows her to do more damage with some of her attacks than will normally work. But it's pretty niche because you have to think about, like, this attack is not a nuke. It's not an AoE attack. When do we need more damage with a weak attack? And how much difference does it make? Not much. Yeah, at least with this attack. And then we have 1000 Needles. This attack here is pretty good. High modifier, 6 BP, what we want, but it doesn't have any critical damage. So, well, just a normal attack. Then we have the last one. This attack here could be better. They could have buffed this. Why? It has both Slash and Pierce, and it attacks for roll. Yeah, like I said many times, we don't have many waves where roll attacks are good enough. Most of the time, the enemies are not even aligned like we want to attack them. They are aligned like the enemy is on the top, is the first one that we attack, but we wanted to attack in the middle. So for auto setups, it's hardly useful. And when you want to use this, it's more for manual. And how many times in manual we have enemies aligned in a row? In boss fights, it's hard to find that. It has increased damage to plants and insects. We may find more usage of this in Final Island, because there sometimes we can predict which character will go first, and we can just attack the correct setup, and there are more row enemies than just story or events. The damage is okay for 10 BP, it's even higher if you are using this against the enemies. They are plants and insects, but the problem is just that, well, the cost is 10 BP, it's hard to use this again. She doesn't have any way to increase her BP, so it's only once in a 3-turn cycle. And what does she do after that? Well, she uses Splash Arrow, and this one is strong against another type of enemies, humans and fishes. We start attacking plant and insects, and then we start attacking human and fishes. How many times do you find this reliable? Not many. So now let's discuss the other passives. Sensitive Mind increases her dexterity on the beginning of a turn, so she can stack this, but the chances are only 25. And the buff is 20%. 20% is the same value as we get with Award Claudia. She gets this, but only on the start of a wave. So for boss fight, she's not exactly that good because it buffs only once. While we can stack buffs with this version, but yeah, only 25%, only once every 4 turns on average. Not that good. There are some characters that can get buffs every single turn. And then we have Fired Up 4, that's 15% increase in damage. So what do we have here? We have 15% coming from Fired Up 4 and 50% plus when dealing critical damage. She gets more critical attacks by inheritance, and that's what we need to discuss. Let me reduce the window here again. And because she has many styles, we have many options. As you can see, we have Beast Slayer coming from her A style. Everyone has access to this, but right now this is not that strong. The problem with critical attacks in the past is just that they were weaker than normal attacks, so when we were hitting a critical damage, they were just comparable to other attacks. They didn't have any reason to exist. But Beast Slayer gets upgraded to A, 31 modifier, and then when using this Beast Slayer plus, then it will make sense, because we can get 50% more after the 20%, so aligning 70%. She gets very close to triple S damage when she gets to use Beast Slayer plus, but this is just so far in the future that summoning for her right now makes no much sense. Yes, she does have some other attacks that are also based on critical damage, like this S style has this attack that is critical against floating enemies, but it has 11 BP cost, so, well, she cannot even use it on turn 1. And this other version of her, the award has this attack that is special against frog, but the power is pretty low. That's just like the case I said, the skill is weak, so when you get the upgraded damage, it barely matters, because it just aligns with normal skills. And the last critical attack we have is one that comes from her limited S style. This one here, it has an attack that's called Shockwave. It deals increased damage to flowing enemies. Because it's 6 BP, as you can see it's only B power, so we have to increase a weaker skill. In the end, it's still good enough. The buff is good enough. But is it reason enough to summon for this character? I don't think so. If you have a Ward Claudia, she's already good enough. And let's compare to the last version of her in Japan. This is the Ultra Deluxe version. She's a better damage dealer. She can attack 3 times. It's not a random chance. She will always attack 3 times with C power, 10 BP cost. That's, well, the same BP cost as her third skill right now. And it's way stronger. She is also better for AoE attack with disturbed shooting. This is better than, you know, rapid volley. It eventually gets the same power as Rapid Volley Plus, but Rapid Volley Plus has a lower BP cost. But not that it matters since, well, we are pretty far from Rapid Volley Plus. But this Ultra Deluxe version of her is a better character. If you already have the Award version, we can kinda skip the Summer version, because when we want damage, we don't need to bring the Summer version. And it makes sense if you have all the versions of Claudia to just add this other one, but only, you know, if it doesn't cost you too much. If you get Silver and Final Empress first, I don't suggest you trying to get Claudia, unless you are really a fan of the character. And for last, let's discuss her cycles. You can, well, open with her third skill, that is if the enemies are aligned in a row, and then you have BP to use Splash Arrow. But if you are using this skill on the second wave, you can save 4,000 needles on the third one. But I do believe that sometimes you will just stick to 2,000 needles and then Splash Arrow, if your enemies are not weak to any of her critical attacks. And you can also just use Heartseeker Plus as an opener, and just stick to using Splash Arrow if you are using Heartseeker on turn 1. But if you're using on turn 2, you can use 1,000 needles. That is all about her different cycles. And now we are back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? Well, in my opinion, yes, but with some observations. Do you have a Ward Final Empress? If you do, it increases the value, since your Final Empress will also be a healer and a fast attacker. You don't, she's still good. She will probably be the best attacker for a while for both Slash and Sun AoE on turn 1, even though it's not fast. She may still attack before your other characters, and Silver is now the strongest fast attacker for turn 1 damage. Claudia has low value, so you will summon here, and if you get at least one of those fast, you can drop the banner and just feel like you are safe. If you already have Noel from the past human versions of the 7 heroes, you can also skip this Final Empress. You don't need both. If you get Silver first, stop. Well, if you got in the first pool, you can stop unless you want both characters. It's not an amazing banner, because only 2 good styles out of a banner may mean that you can get a lot of off banners before you get the ones that are good. But this is my opinion. What is yours? I will probably be summoning on this banner. I want Silver and Final Empress. If I get Silver with a single pull, I will stop, but I can go a little further with 4 Final Empress. If you want to wait, you can still wait to see if there are better banners coming out. We still have time to decide. But that's it. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, you can use the links here in the description of the video. We see each other on the next one. Bye.